Hi class, I am off to a basketball game in Dubuque, so you will have a couple different teachers covering. Please take out your homework. It's worksheet 6-4 from yesterday. Would you please pass out one of the mini sheets up front in the basket? Students, please copy down problem number 6, 8, and 11. Show me how you set it up and answer it on that sheet, and then turn that sheet into the basket. Please pause the video so that students can fill out the mini sheet and put it in the basket. And when you come back, I will have answers for you when everyone is done. Thanks. Here are the answers to our homework. The methods that you set up here could have varied. We could have used the percent equation, or you could have used the percent proportion. Our answer should be the same in each of these as well. When we get to number 8, some people today have forgotten to label that. That is okay, as long as you had 20,000. For number 11, 10.80 or $10.80 will also work for number 11. If you happen to just put 0.4211 on a problem like this, you would miss a half because it's asking for the percent, and this is actually the percent instead of the decimal. So those are a couple of different things. If you have questions on any of that, you can ask me those questions via email, or you can request to come into Trojan Study Time on Wednesday, and I would be happy to answer those questions. Today we are looking at our essential question of what is a percent of decrease, what is a percent of increase. You will notice on the boards on the side, I have a lot of things that will be available up until the test. Up front on the boards is the percent proportion that we've used. Part over whole equals percent over 100, or is over of equals percent over 100. We also yesterday did the percent equation, which I have listed as well. Part equals the percent in a decimal or fraction form times the whole. Towards the backboard, I have put up how to change a decimal to a fraction, or decimal to a percent, excuse me, and a percent to a decimal. The ones in the middle are things that we're going to be talking about today. So you'll be able to see some of those things in our lesson today, which deal with percent of change, percent of decrease, percent of increase, and then the percent of error. On the calendar board, you will notice that there are the homework for today is up there, and we will be having the Chapter 6 test on Wednesday of next week. We will do a lesson tomorrow on Wednesday, a lesson on Thursday, and then we'll review for 2 or 3 days in order to start our chapter test on Wednesday. So that's a few things to keep you up, and now let's get started on percent of decrease and percent of increase. In our first problem today, you scored 80 points on your first test. If your score increased by 10% on the next test, what is your score? Please discuss this with a person or two around you, and when this discussion is completed, please restart the video. Hopefully you had a chance to discuss. Typically, we get 2 different answers. One is 90 and the other is 88. Hopefully you got one of those 2 answers. The actual correct answer is 88 points. What we would need to do is we would need to take 10% of 80. When we take 0.1 times 80, that gives us 8. Since we're increasing it by 8 points, we had 80 points. 80 plus 8 is our 88 points. Please spend about 3 minutes, and you can choose any 3 of the 6 problems. If you increase, we add that to it. If we decrease, then we're going to subtract that amount from the original. Please pause the video for about 3 minutes. Allow students to use a calculator if needed, or if they wish, to solve the new amounts. Hopefully you had a chance to answer these questions. 15 inches increased by 20% gives us a new amount of 18 inches. 145 gallons, 145 times 0.6, we will then subtract that from 145 and we will get 58 gallons. 70 meters increased by 80%, that means we're going to increase it by 56 meters. 56 plus 70 is 126 meters. We're going to decrease by 74%, so 150 times 74. We're going to get an answer, subtract that from 150. Our answer is 39. 5% of 120 is 6, so we're going to take 120 minus, because it's decreased 6. That gives us 114. And in the last one, we're going to take a fourth of this and increase it. So a fourth of 40 is 10. So we're going to increase by 10 to get 50. The first of our key ideas is percent increase and decrease. When the original amount increases, the percent of change is called a percent of increase. Since we had an original amount and it's a new amount that is bigger, we take the new amount minus the original amount and we divide it by the original amount. That's the percent of increase. The amount is going up from the beginning. When the original amount decreases, the percent of change is called a percent of decrease. So in the original, we would be higher than the new amount because it went down. So we're going to subtract those two, and then we're going to divide it by the original. The way I like to think of this is, what is the change and what is the original? And we find the change is change over the original, or change divided by the original. That will give us a decimal that we can change into a percent. If the change increases, it goes up. We have an increase. If it goes down, we have a decrease. Here's our first example. This table shows the number of hours you spent online last weekend. What is the percent of change in your online time from Saturday to Sunday? So the first thing that I'm looking for is, what is the change? On Saturday, I was 2 hours online. On Sunday, I was 4.5. So my change is 2.5 hours. My original number that I started out with is 2. So here's how I set up this. 2.5 hours of change over 2 hours of original. When I divide this, either using a calculator or by long division, I get 1 and 25/100ths. In order to change that decimal to a percent, I move the decimal 2 places, so my answer becomes, it is a 125% increase. You can either write the arrow going up, or you can write the word increase. The reason it is an increase is because this number went from 2 to 4.5, which is it went up, or an increase. Please find the percent of change on these increases. Round the nearest tenth if necessary. Please pause the video, allow the students a couple minutes to do that, and then restart it, and I'll have answers. Thanks. Hopefully you had time to find the percent of change. In this first one, we went from 10 to 25. That is a change of 15 over the original, which is 10. When we divide that, we get 1 5/10. So this was a 150% increase by moving from 10 to 25. In the second one, we changed from 57 to 65, which is a change of 8 over the original, which is 57. That as a decimal is 0.14035 something something something, which is good because now we can move this 2 places, 1, 2. So we will get 14.035%. When we round it to the nearest tenth, here's the tenths place. That 3 does nothing, so we can say 14%. This problem is an example of a decrease. This bar graph shows the softball players' home run totals. What was the percent change from 2012, where they hit 28, to 2013, where they hit 20? Thinking about this, our change went from 28 to 20, so it is a change of 8. The original was 28. So what we will need to do is divide 8 by 28. This will give us an answer of 0.2857114, and I'll stop right there. We can move the decimal 2 places, so we would get 28.57 or 28.6%. Notice that this is a decrease because the totals went down from the year before. A decrease, 28 to 20. Our second key idea is a percent error is the percent that an estimated quantity differs from the actual amount. Percent error equals the amount of the error over the actual amount. Sometimes construction people do this to try to estimate how much materials they need. So then they have to figure out how much error they have and how much the actual amount is. So here's an example of that. You estimate that the length of the classroom is 16 feet. The actual length is 21 feet. Find the percent error. So our first thing that we must think about is we must figure out what is the error. We had an error of 5 feet because it was 16 to 21. Over the actual, and in our actual, it was 21 feet. So our first thing that we have to do is we have to take 5 divided by 21. That answer will give you a decimal of 0.23809, and we'll go from right there. Again, to move this decimal to a percent, we move it 2 places, so we get 23.809. I would say that that would probably be 23.8% error. Notice that there is not a difference in positive or negative in the error. This is just how much is that error. So to wrap things up, to find the percent of change, we take the change over the original, and if it goes up, it is an increase. If it goes down, it is a decrease. Please pass out the homework, which is worksheet 6.5, problems 1 through 12. Students, you have the rest of class to work on this homework. Please show me the steps that you set it up as. How much was the change over how much was the original? And don't forget to include either an arrow up or the word increase, or an arrow down and the word decrease. These will be due on Wednesday. Thanks and have a great day.